Hi, Ray Bakerton with the Wounded Arts Project again, and today we're talking to Steve Pariseau. Steve, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And we're at the Piquette Square, and Steve has a connection to Piquette Square. Steve, why don't you please tell us what this facility is?
Okay, Ray. This project is a permanent supportive housing for homeless veterans. And what that means is that the veterans actually have permanent housing here. They don't have to leave. It's not a temporary facility like some shelters are.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually permanent housing for them. The state has provided them and granted them with vouchers for 30 years that can be redeemed after 30 years.
Wow.
If they decide they want to stay. And the supportive element of the project is it provides social services, artistic services, and community services to help the veterans get back on their feet after not being in society for all that long.
Right, and it's a U-shaped facility. We're standing in the center of the U, a nice flag display in the background. And prior to our talking, you mentioned also that there are retail areas for them to possibly develop.
Exactly right. With the supportive housing element, we've left some space open for commercial or retail use. So if some of the tenants want to actually open up their own business, or they want to work in a business that is a leasable space, and that is an opportunity that's available to them here.
Oh, okay.
I believe the owners of the project themselves are looking at prospective tenants for the space, but I'm not sure who they are yet.
Right, and because we're on a tripod here with a flip camera and there's only two of us, I can't really pan around, but to our right there are some empty shops. We'll get a picture of that in a minute. And that's pretty much what he's talking about. They're empty right now, but that's a nice background. And really, what is your connection to it personally?
Well, personally, I was the designer and project manager for the building, so I worked with my client and the state to get the project realized. And that means from the design process all through construction, it was a collaborative effort with the clients and the Michigan State Housing and Development Authority to get the project realized. So we initially went through schematic design with the state and the clients, decided what the program was going to be for the building itself, and we wanted to house a large number of homeless veterans specifically in this area because the city of Detroit has about 6,000 homeless veterans on the street, and being able to impact such a large number in one stroke with this project allowed us to really fill a void to a client that has been sorely mishandled in the past.
And when I heard about Piquette House, reading about it in the Detroit Free Press, or it might have been the Metro Times or some other newspaper here, it mentioned that you were here, and you said what about this project?
I said this is the most important project I've ever worked on, and I mean that because of who we were able to respond to in the community, in the homeless community. Being able to serve veterans in a way that thanks them for their service. Really, we did a lot with this facility to make it feel like a home for them, and being that it is permanent housing, we're able to provide them with permanent services and permanent support to help them through the times that they're going through coming back from conflicts. And it really shows our appreciation for what they've been able to do for us and helping to protect and serve for us.
Right. That's one of the main reason why we're talking today is such a noble feeling about this. We're a veteran-related organization ourselves, and we try and do our best to help veterans come along. And you're an architect by training?
I'm actually a designer. I'm currently working on getting my licensure.
Oh, okay.
The gentleman who was the architect for the project is John Denoya, and he assisted us throughout the process. He was fully involved throughout, making sure that we, as designers and project managers, made sure that we had everything, all of our T's crossed and I's dotted.
Right, right. And you, and one of the questions we usually ask up front to the people we're talking to is, doing these kinds of things, as we're art-related, we like to hear stories about people that have been doing a lot of artwork, and the architects we've talked to in the past. Oh yeah, I started drawing when I was a kid. We've talked to scientific illustrators, and this one woman, Bonnie Miljour, she said, I would get out of my crib and go and start drawing. So what is your background with drawing? Are you an artist yourself? When you think about this kind of project and being able to relate ideas, you certainly have to be able to draw and communicate. And
Absolutely.
something like this, it's not drawing human life forms everywhere. It's drawing square lines, trying to converge in vanishing points.
And trying to actually interrelate different uses within a building so it all makes sense to the people that occupy it.
Mm-hmm.
My background is I actually knew I wanted to be an architect when I was in high school. I took a drafting class.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, something just clicked in me, and I said, this is what I want to do. Because one of my first projects in the drafting class was to design my own dream house. And I thought, boy, what if I could do whatever I wanted to do with this house?
Mm-hmm.
And it sparked something that hasn't faltered since. What we're able to do as designers and architects is impact how people live their lives through design.
Right.
And it can be a positive or a negative thing. And that's the fine line. Is if you get too over anxious with new creative ideas, some people might not know how to use that facility for what your intention is.
Right.
So it's a matter of blending a traditional methodology with new ideas.
Mm-hmm. And did you draw a lot as a kid?
I did.
Yeah?
I did. I drew
What was your favorite
a lot
kind?
as a kid. Pardon?
What'd you draw a lot of? Airplanes, buildings, people?
It was mainly buildings.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well, that's good.
I wasn't much of a cartoonist or anything like
Right.
that,
No,
but it was
get her
mainly buildings.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Did you draw from photographs, or did you do a lot of making up your own?
I did both.
Really?
I did
Okay.
both. I'd see a crazy picture in a magazine, and I'd try to replicate it, or I'd be sitting waiting. We did a lot of camping when I was a kid, so there was a lot of nature stuff.
No. Okay. Did you ever draw any pictures by MC Escher drive your family crazy? What's the matter with
No.
you? You didn't make this up, did you?
I didn't know Escher when I was a kid.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah.
So they didn't send me to the assignment.
Right, that's good. Okay, well, we've spun the camera around. As I mentioned, there's only two of us. And in the background, you can see the open areas there where they're hoping to put retail space. But, Steve, we're going to also ask you about some of the other things that happened here. Now, this was a brownfield site.
Correct.
Prior to this building going up. And do you want to describe briefly what happened there, what you had to do for that?
What we had to do, given that it's a brownfield site, that means that it's dirty underneath the top of the soil. Right. So there's underground storage tanks or residue or oil or environmental toxins that create an environment that you don't want to build on.
Right.
So what we did is basically 2/3 of the site was excavated.
And what was it prior to?
It was mainly sand and clay, but there were underground storage tanks, different pipes that were cut and not capped, a lot of different things that were here. Although there weren't any fluids going through those cut and uncapped pipes, the EPA and MISTA wanted to make sure that this site was incredibly clean prior to putting this building.
And there used to be like a plant here, automobile plant.
Yes, it used to be the Studebaker plant, which when that went out of operation, Piquette Square market took over the space, and they actually had a market running out of the facility. It's funny, the building as it stands now is a U-shaped building, and the Studebaker plant was a U-shaped building as well, but oriented in a different way. So it's interesting to see how different uses can actually have the same configuration or a similar configuration.
But it was the same building.
This building is a brand new building.
No, I mean pardon me, back to the plant and the market. I mean, they were just using, it was still,
Yes.
Okay, but parts came in one way, and then later on produce came in another.
Exactly
a different
right.
way.
Exactly right.
Oh, okay.
Exactly right.
And one of our other architects that we've talked to, Mike Cooper at Harley Ellis Devereaux, he did some nice work with us about building information modeling. And did you use that here?
We did not. Building information modeling really wasn't in the mainstream when this project started 5 years ago.
Right.
So we went the traditional route and made sure that we were coordinated with our consultants properly. But if we were to start that project today, we would certainly use building information modeling because it helps to integrate all different components and building parts so everything is seamless or more seamless, and we don't have any conflicts.
Okay, and you mentioned a few minutes ago when we were spinning the camera here that there's like geothermal heating and all types of elements that would go perfectly well with BIM.
Absolutely, the building is incredibly energy efficient. In this courtyard, there's 65 geothermal wells that are drilled.
Wow.
About 250 feet into the earth. And that is what heats and cools the building. They're all tied together underground and go back to the mechanical room of the building.
Right.
And that is just one of the elements that creates an energy efficient building here. The building itself is super insulated. The roof is super insulated, plus it has a PVC roofing membrane,
Right.
which reflects the light as opposed to absorbs the light, so you're not getting all the solar gain. The windows are all energy efficient. We're using energy efficient lighting fixtures. We're using a system developed by Masco in all of the apartments. It's called the Verve lighting system. What that does is there's no wiring that is from the switch to the light fixture itself. You operate the switch, and harvested energy actually is enough to send a signal to a remote control that turns a light fixture on.
Wow.
So not only are we reducing the amount of materials used to wire the building, we're using energy that's already out in the atmosphere.
How big are the apartments here for each of the bedrooms?
The apartments are almost 450 square feet apiece.
Oh, that's pretty
So
nice.
they're all single bedroom apartments, each with kitchenettes, full bathrooms,
Right, little living room kind of place.
living room, bedroom, a lot of storage area.
Yeah.
It's really a nice sized space for the tenants.
Okay, and we're here in September 2010. It opened in like July.
July of 2010.
And they're full by now.
Absolutely full.
Yeah. Well,
They have a waiting list.
Yeah. 6,000 guys. Yeah. Well, I think we're going to have to wrap it up, Steve. Thank you very much.
Pleasure talking
Very
to you.
noble effort for you to come and your company to do this kind of project. I'm sure you got paid, of course, but the feeling that giving something back, that's part of one of the things we try and instill in our veterans is, hey, when you get back on your feet, try and do something else, help another veteran.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for joining
Thanks
us.
very much for your time.
And again, I hope that our viewers are going to look at this and say, hey, architecture does look like a really neat thing to do, because I really like the building. And besides, these guys are really good guys here too. So thank you very much. See you next time.
Take care.